All right. As you can tell, this is no normal week of the podcast. I'm at home, clearly. As you can tell, I'd give you a tour, but I honestly think that'd be kind of weird, so I'm not going to do that. But yeah, never done this, never sat down and just talked to a camera for an extended period of time, so it might be a little rough around the edges, but we're going to make it work. So the reason I'm at home is because, as you could imagine, everything is playing out. As we've let you know the past few weeks, Ross had his baby. My baby is coming in a very short time, so I'm at home this week. And then Ethan is stepping up on the old bar and filling in some shifts for some folks we have on vacation. So this is what we got. And you're going to be on this journey with me for the next blank amount of minutes, but it'll probably only be, 3, 4, 5 hours of me spitting out information. So why don't you grab your mug of coffee and get to sipping, huh? I'm drinking it's a recent coffee that won't be around for too long. It's a Columbia Pink Bourbon, and it is fantastic. From San Agustin. It's called La Belleza. Sorry. And it's good. It's really good. We got it on drip at the cafe. And I must say, I'm a fan. So, news from the Valor front. The good old Dunwoody Cafe is just, it's coming along, I guess. We got a couple more quotes in from GCs, and we're being realistic to ourselves, and we're in a tight spot with cash there, just because of the nature of material costs and labor costs and whatnot in the construction world. But we're gonna make it work, and we don't really have much of a choice. But once we were able to swallow that pill of going very far over budget, I think we're starting to really look forward to it again. And we haven't really been down there in a minute, honestly. But one of our regulars told Ethan that the windows are boarded up, and that was a part of the landlord's scope of work, to pull out the old windows that looked very like residential-esque, and to put in a new commercial windows on the front, a completely new window on the side, so they had to tear off some of the face of the building, and then to put in a commercial door as well. So it's just gonna look more modern, more glassy and whatnot, because I don't know, I don't have screen recording on today, so you'll have to bear with me there as I show you pictures from my phone. But the space itself is certainly, it's not the most gorgeous spot, but I think these improvements will definitely help it. So if you can see that. So just those residential-esque looking windows are coming out. And then over in this area, they're putting in a new window. So it'll really help with getting some sexy light up in the space. And yeah, I think, they had to do that. And then they're also putting in a grease trap outside. So they had to tear up some stuff. I don't really know where they are with that, because you have to get a pretty tough to secure permit to do that. But we'll see. They are supposed to deliver our space on September 1st, which is honestly pretty good timing, with myself going on leave and then Ross in the middle of his leave. I think he's been out for 2 weeks now. So we'll be able to come back and really focus on that build out, especially since we're going to have to be driving back and forth to good old Dunwoody every, who knows how many times a week, every couple days, for probably for Ethan, I'm sure. So I posted a little bit on the story letting everyone know about me doing this solo show, and I asked for questions, and we got us some questions. So I'm just gonna go right through these. I have not reviewed them whatsoever, and we are gonna answer them to the best of our knowledge for sure. So we will start with Brandon. Brandon, you always give the best questions anytime we ask this. Even anytime I ask this personally on my personal Instagram, it's just you're a faithful, and we appreciate it. So his question was too long for the question box, if that tells you anything. He says, what has been the most rewarding thing about working in specialty coffee? What kept you in it long enough to want to open your own space with Ross and Ethan? So I think the best thing about working in specialty coffee is that you just touch the lives of a lot of people. So, and it goes the same with any other retail or restaurant industry related job where you have people coming in and out of your doors constantly. So just the thought of being able to see a person walk in, you're a lot of times in the morning. So you're, as a barista, you're the first interaction of their day. And I mean, we've all had bad service experiences where it kind of, you get treated poorly and you walk away and you take that with you for the rest of the day. I know that, I struggle with that, certainly. If I have a bad experience, then I can't stop thinking about it. So on the flip side, if you have a crazy good experience, it's hard not to carry that with you and just, be full of joy. So I think the three of us, we saw what we could do on that front in our customer service interactions. And honestly, we were really put on to want to be better at customer service by, setting the table by Danny Meyer and the Cat and Cloud Coffee podcast. So to hear about these just great experiences and how how to give a great experience, we started doing that, and we started seeing the almost like lives transformed of our regulars who came in at our places of work at that time. And so we carried that with us, and I mean that's the reason we have stayed in specialty coffee. Honestly, I mean, we love coffee, like, don't get me wrong, and I find new love for coffee constantly. But especially before we owned our own place, just sitting in the space of being a barista, like, if your value is all about the craft, I know that I'm wrong in a lot of circumstances because a lot of people build their entire career on a craft. But for us, and in our opinion, if your entire value is based on a craft, what happens when you get burnout of that craft? What happens when you come to the reality that, baristas don't make a ton of money? So, and even opening a cafe and having a coffee shop, that you still don't make a ton of money there. So I think once you build your foundation and your values upon this greater thing, like, giving people an excellent cup of coffee, it is a great thing. Helping the supply chain, it's a great thing. But to really, pour yourself out to this person in front of you, show them that you care about them more than just in a transactional format, that is what has made it worth opening a cafe and continuing to open cafes. Beyond that, I mean, coffee is a really fun product that is still, specialty coffee is fairly new. And I guess the flip side of it is, like, things are constantly being discovered about specialty coffee. And we can take what we know and take what the industry is showing us and continue to grow in that format. And I mean, I know, transparently, we aren't trailblazers in the same way that a lot of other, companies with higher budgets than us are, but we like to consider ourselves somewhere towards the front of, trying to do things or adopting new tech or whatever that other people are maybe slower to do. So that keeps it fun as well. So I hope that answers that question well. Thank you, Brandon. All right, next up, let's see. JP, friend of the program, asks, what is a trend in coffee you're really excited about? That is an interesting question. So I have really been enjoying brewing coffee at home. I packed up all my stuff last Thursday with the knowledge that I probably wasn't going to go back to the office. And so I took a few things from HQ with me with the permission of, some of the people there that brew coffee a little more than me. So thank you to Sam and Ariel for allowing me to take a few things and deprive you of your pour overs and whatnot. So I have been brewing. I grabbed a Fellow Ode, a Ratio 6 brewer, and just the Fellow Stag kettle. And then our new origami drippers. And I brought those home, been brewing on those, and, kind of been trying to get back into the sciencey side of it. And that's the funny thing. I feel like a lot of science right now, especially led by, what's his name? Lance Hedrick. I follow him on Instagram, and he's just all about, raising extraction percentage, which I love the thought of. I think a lot of where we are in coffee right now is we have gotten really good on machine tech, like the espresso machine or brewer tech or whatever, like the thing that spits out the hot water and makes the coffee. But I think we're really behind or maybe plateaued on grinder tech. And, you've heard where I am with my opinion on these newer lineup of grinders from some manufacturers. And I won't get into that too much, but I'm really interested in the other ways to increase extraction percentage right now. So it's funny because I think a lot of it is like the WDT tool. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It just basically looks like a bunch of metal toothpicks on the end of like a piece of cork. I'll show you a picture real quick. So like these little guys right here. For your listeners, it's just like a black piece of aluminum or something. And then there's just like these small little metal, almost wire-like things. So the idea is that, especially if you're pulling a shot of espresso, you get the espresso into the portafilter, you take that tool, and this isn't new by any means, by the way. So I guess I'm just behind on all this, but I am a little bit excited about it. So, you take that and then you comb it through the espresso, and it really fluffs it up and it gets all the clumps out, and it increases your extraction percentage like pretty substantially. So you do that, you tamp. Something I saw recently, and again, maybe I'm behind on this, but I feel like the article was pretty fresh. Barista Hustle released some research saying after you brew, if you take that WDT tool and put it through the liquid, it increases extraction percentage there as well, which is nuts. So I would love to taste, A/B taste the two and see if one, like, would it make it over extracted? Because, you want as high of an extraction percentage as possible until you are over extracted, or we do. Like we are at the opinion of when you're dialing in, find over extracted, like just over extracted, and then dial it back a touch. And that's where you have, especially if you're pulling espresso, like your best shots. So I would be interested, but I mean, you always want to extract more without being over extracted. So finding ways to extract more without getting the negative qualities of extraction is the goal. I'd be interested to taste those two side by side. And the thing that doesn't excite me about all of that is, how do you replicate that in a service environment? How do you take the time to use the WDT tool on every shot of espresso that you're putting through your espresso machine? That's kind of the hard part about some of these methods that I just can't really get my head around, because, especially if it makes it better. And a lot of these we're pinching pennies of, say, 100% quality is if you do every single thing and take I'll say 99% quality, because I don't think 100% quality is achievable. But so 99% is, you take every step, you do the tool, you put a screen over the puck, you do the thing afterwards. What is it if you don't do it? Is it 95% quality? If so, and you're trimming off a minute of time per beverage in a service environment, then you probably should just, stick to the easier way of doing things. I forgot to say, I've got Ethan and Ross with me here. That's when we were in Maine on our owners retreat last year. So, but you boys didn't know you were going to be on the podcast today, huh? All right. Hope that answers your question, JP. I'd be interested to hear what you're most excited about that's trending in the coffee world. So, JP, smash like and send me a message letting me know. All right. Next up, question from Edwin. Edwin says, starting a coffee cart this month, what's your advice on how to land clients? So, my advice on landing clients is kind of the not fun advice of, you have to have, we found that a lot of times you have to have clients to land clients, or you just have to be doing something to get more people. So I think if you're just starting out, and this will depend on, your local health department and what you can and can't do with the licensing that you do have. But, and I'm not going to answer questions on health department and licensing, just to let you know, you're going to have to figure that out yourself. We can't take the liability with that stuff, and it's just so different from region to region. And so, seek advice of others in your area who have done something similar, especially like caterers, and see what they say. But I don't have too much to say there, which that wasn't the question, so that's perfect. But I would say, if you can, do some sort of public type of event, like a farmer's market, or I don't know, just like a market or festival type of thing at the in the area that you want to be. So, I would say it probably wouldn't be as worth it if you're just in a completely rural area to go and do a farmer's market where, sure, some people in that area are going to get married, but I would recommend go to a larger farmer's market near you, maybe in your closest city. Get your product out there, make some money off of that, even if it's not crazy, but at least people will see you. And then you also will be able to have content to drive your social media. And, that's the thing, is just you want to stay in people's mind, especially when you're first starting a business and you don't have regulars walking in through the door at all times. So keep it fresh in people's mind, post whatever you can on Instagram or Reels or whatever. Maybe think about partnering with a roaster and, hand delivering people their coffee throughout the week, just to keep it fresh and keep doing things whenever it's slow, even if you have to create those things to do. And then once you start rolling, and once you have, a wedding, and then, verbal referrals, and you're able to post a picture of this wedding, post a picture of this film set, post a picture of this party, then that's whenever you'll start seeing events trickle in. Like, even with us right now, we just restarted our cart, and we aren't, spilling over with events. We definitely have gotten more requests up front than we did when we started our business, because that was a 0 on requests. But yeah, I would say just do all that you can to be present and to be continuing to, fill or occupy the space in people's minds. So next up, Tetherball and Elias asks top 3 cafe spreadsheets. Man, my top 3 cafe spreadsheets. I have one that I built a couple years ago where I can input, the cost of every single ingredient, and then it will automatically populate the sheet next to it with our cost per drink. And then the sheet next to it, you put in, your cost for the month, rent, utilities, labor, etc. The one next to it, you put in your cost for labor. And then on the sheet beside that, it gives you your true cost. You also input your revenue for the month, categorized out. But then at the end, it gives you your true cost per beverage, including rent, labor, everything, and then your true revenue per beverage. And then it's not just per beverage, it's per food item, per retail box. Based on hours worked, it goes pretty deep in on all of that. And I use that one every now and then. It's kind of overkill, and it, at the end of the day, it doesn't really give you true perspective in some areas, but that one's fun. And then our spreadsheet, that I'm all about just making a spreadsheet be where anyone could use it. So I made one that is for tracking the true cost of our green coffee. So you input the green coffee price per pound, and then how much it was for shipping, how many sacks were in the pallet. It breaks up the shipping to a per sack price and then down to a per pound price. And then it accounts for the moisture loss during the roast. Like when you're roasting, you just lose moisture and gases to where if you put in a pound of coffee, you're gonna get 0.85 pounds of coffee out. So it does all of that and then gives you your true cost, and then it breaks it down into it adds the cost of our retail packaging and bulk packaging and all that. So I like spreadsheets. They're fun, and they're fun to make for sure. Elijah Knapp, our very own Elijah, asks, I would be interested to hear your take on, quotes, where coffee culture is going, end quotes, period. Well, Elijah, I think coffee, I guess I have maybe a couple of interesting thoughts on this. I think one, specialty coffee is still growing, and I would be interested to see more specific stats about specialty coffee amongst this younger portion of Gen Z, like, maybe people just coming out of high school. Like, I mean, we see them a lot, so I think they are drinking coffee, but I would be interested to see if they are interested in the craft of coffee as much as the prior generation was, because, like, are they still nerding out about it in the same way? So I do think specialty coffee is going to continue to grow. We're going to continue to see, a more tech developed, more advancement in extraction and all that. I have seen a lot of specialty coffee places gain better service. Even places that used to be extremely pretentious that I have been to again recently, and it's like things have changed and they're nicer. So I think specialty coffee is heading there. I think we are definitely in for some, when you're looking at, there's only so much specialty coffee grown in the world. So probably some supply chain disruption as it continues to grow. And then with that, someone predicted this to me several years ago, and I've kind of seen it start to pop up every, here and there. I think at some point there's going to be a large push for Robusta, saying, oh, it's actually good. You don't have to just drink Arabica. Here's this product can be good as well. I haven't, experienced that firsthand of it outperforming, more specialty coffees. But with supply chain and costs and whatnot, supply chain issues, cost raising, I do think we're going to see that more in the next few years. So I could be totally wrong. Don't take my words as gospel, but I would not doubt if you see some Robusta popping up on some specialty shelves here pretty soon. And if you know more about that, then let me know, because I'm very interested. All right. Social Coffee Baton Rouge says, how do you get your hair to always look that good? Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. I don't hate my hair. I wish that I could do up my hair every day, but I live so far away from work that a lot of days I just have to get up and throw a hat on and, just like this. But yeah, thanks for the compliment on these locks. I appreciate that. So next up, what does your hiring process look like so that you keep the culture you've created? That is from Gianni. So that is an interesting question. And I think it takes a lot of adapting and being flexible, because we have changed our hiring process a lot. And we definitely haven't landed it perfectly. Like, I wish that we could say every single hire at Valor has worked out, but it just simply hasn't. And it's because we're constantly learning about that process. I will say I am the least involved in the hiring process amongst the three owners, me, Ethan, and Ross. But they, especially Ross, have created a format. So, we say we're hiring. We receive resumes. Ross goes through the resumes. First of all, usually we'll receive a resume or an email. Then Ross will respond with a cover letter request saying, "Hey, can you please respond with a cover letter answering these questions?" And it's kind of the things you would expect, like, why do you want to work at Valor? And then it also includes some things like, what hours can you work? How much are you wanting to work? So instantly right there, if someone responds and says, I can only work mornings on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, you're not going to get the job at Valor just based off of that. So we're able to see logistics right then. And then, we don't have to progress. We can just respond and say, hey, sorry, this isn't a good fit. If someone responds and says, I have, this availability, and it works out, they have a good answer about why they want to work at Valor. It's not just like, I just want to make coffee and just feel it, and that's it. I don't really like guests that much, but I just want to make coffee. Clearly they aren't going to get a call, but if they're like, I like to make people's day, I love Valor's culture, so on and so forth, then, at that point, Ross sees it. He's like, okay, this person could potentially be a good fit. Ross then gives them a call and just goes into a little bit more details on logistics. How far do you live from Valor? Do you have any plans to move? How long could you see yourself working here? If they're like, I live 80 miles away, then again, probably not a good fit. But if everything kind of lines up, we don't ask you to sign your life away to Valor. If someone's like, I think I'm going to be in the Atlanta area for another year and then I'm going to move to Texas, we're like, okay, we'll continue down this road and see if you're a good fit for the time being. So anyways, phone call happens. Then we scheduled the first interview. The first interview, it's really just to get to know them better and to ask some questions and to hear, how they respond to some more in-depth questions. And then the second interview is usually to, we usually bring in, if the first one was just Ross, then the second interview might be Ross and Ethan or Ross and Mikey or something of those sorts, just to get more of a, just more eyes on the person and introduce them to our team more, and then to just, shore up any concerns that we might have had from the first interview. Like, in the first interview, maybe Ross asked something about how do you handle conflict? And the person said, I kind of shut down. Then maybe Ross didn't press in, but maybe he will on the second one. He says, hey, you said that you kind of shut down in the midst of conflict with the team. Can you explain that more? And can you explain how you might remedy that and how it could possibly not affect your work performance? So it's just, just an extra layer of protection to make sure that, they're the right fit for Valor and Valor is the right fit for them. So it's, again, sometimes that goes wrong and sometimes, you have to address that, and sometimes it goes perfectly. But with all that being said, very proud of our team. We have just such a great team right now. And that is really thanks to Ross and Ethan and Mikey as well for just, pressing into people and not even only during the hiring process, but once they come on, helping them develop, helping them press into their strengths and then improve on their weaknesses. So we're a culture of growth here. And if you get the job at Valor, then you know that. And you know that it's not always going to be easy and non-confrontational. So good job, y'all. Next question. This is from Tyler. Best barista question to build relationships with customers. Wow. I might not answer this question directly, but I will say this. The one tip I have for baristas, especially ones who want to press in and have relationships with their guests, would be just remember stuff. So, if that's what we receive, I feel like the best reviews about. It's like, I went to Valor and I didn't come back for 6 months and they remember so-and-so remember my name. And, not every person is cut from the same cloth to do that, but I think it means so much, even if someone comes in on a Friday and, maybe you say, what are you doing this weekend? And they're like, oh, I'm going to an Atlanta United game. And you're like, oh, that's cool. Maybe whenever they come back in the following Monday, you say, how was the Atlanta United game? Just remembering that and just treating the person like a human, like talk to them the way you would talk to your friends. If your friends go do something, your friends go to a concert, you're probably going to ask them how the concert was. So remember those touches, that's just a good touch. Remember conversations you had. I know you have a lot of them. So again, easier said than done, but remember those and then revisit those. If someone said their dog is sick, it means so much to follow up on how their dog is. So I hope that somewhat helps, Tyler. Another question from Johnny. All right. What are some ways that you help with someone reaching burnout on your staff? So we've definitely seen this happen in the past. This is a good question. So I would say, you want to create opportunities for everyone that go beyond, not even just go beyond working behind the bar, but also press into the strengths of that person. So I think the ways we have been able to do this, and the unfortunate reality is that, you don't have an unlimited budget just to give every single person an outlet to express themselves. You can, to the best of your ability, obviously, but the reality of running a business with tight margins is that there's only so far you can go in that department. But I would say, just the more you press into your staff, the more, and the more you care for them, the less likely that burnout usually is. So the way we do it, we don't offer, unfortunately, obviously we would love to do more in this department, but it's not a crazy amount, but we do offer PTO. So that's one area. We do offer sick days and we do offer a healthcare stipend at present. So, things like that, one, just show your staff that you care for them. Even the holidays that we're open, we pay time and a half. And then obviously the areas where we can help someone express, something that goes beyond just coffee, then we really try to do everything we can there. And then a last thing I'll say about that, we do health checks every month. So especially with the cafe specifically, Ethan sits down outside of the cafe with every single person on staff once a month and just checks in on them and sees where they are. If they say, "Hey, I'm feeling really burnt out," Ethan might say, "Okay, do you want me to, pull your hours back for a little bit?" And then we can kind of see if that makes you feel better. Or, do you want me to see if I can move you to this shift? Or really, I mean, Ethan, just being such a giver, is just like, what can I do for you to help this? What can I do personally? So I would say just really checking in on everyone and making sure that everyone's doing okay. Again, it's just treating the person next to you like they are a person. And that's unfortunately easy to forget. All right. Hope that helps, Johnny. So next up, this one's from Chris. He says, 10-year vision for Valor, ? So this one's funny. I feel like we used to always do this a lot more. We would sit down and say, this is our 1 year, 3 year, 5 year vision for the company. And it's certainly maybe tapered off a little bit recently, especially when you're just in the midst of like running a business. So I would say we usually revisit this once a year. And, like this picture is from our owner's retreat last year. And so we usually go on an owner's retreat and talk about some vision stuff. It's not always the topic of discussion about the entire trip, but and I don't even think last year we really did that. We just kind of discussed some other stuff, but I think we have a pretty decent idea, and we have really been focusing on and realizing how important our retail operation is. Like, we love wholesale and we love roasting and all of that. And with that being said, the cafes only help that much more. Like, we have our businesses set up in different entities. So, I mean, just to be completely transparent, our cafe is our biggest wholesale account. And we get to also express, what I just talked about, the loving everyone who comes through the door and sending them away, happy. We get to do that through our retail outlets. So I would say we have a good bit of plans for retail expansion in the next 10 years. I'm not going to say we're going to have 40 locations or anything, but I would say 10 years from now, 10 years is such a long time. I'm about to have a kid. My kid will be 10 in 10 years. That's nuts. So 10 years from now, I would say several Valor locations. I would think maybe a couple out of state. That'd be fun. I would think, by that point, we would really be able to start, making, we kind of already be past this, but just more marks at origin, be able to do more origin trips, create more direct relationships with producers. That would be very cool. So that, and then obviously growing our staff to where we have positions for people to grow into. So obviously general manager and assistant manager type of positions, but also above that, quality control. If we have several locations, maybe someone is over those GMs, maybe a marketing team, maybe someone who just does green purchasing. Like, all that would be so cool. You just have to grow your company to do it. And that's what we're trying to do. Hope that helps, Chris. All right. Greg asks, I want to hear about your workflow / organization. My workflow? Man, this is kind of stuff that I nerd out about. So I hope some of you find this interesting out there. But my workflow. So I work from home on Mondays and Fridays. I'm on a Monday to Friday schedule at this point. If we have an event on a Saturday, I might come down and take some pictures or something like that. and I don't work on bar anymore. I've actually been thinking about picking up a shift at the cafe here soon, and I think I really will at Dunwoody, especially up front, to just kind of get my eyes on the systems that we are installing and see where I can offer some sort of help in creating a system for that new location. But so I don't work on bar anymore. So Monday and Friday I work at home, and I kind of just lay out my week in days that I have to do certain tasks. And that's kind of the hardest part about being an owner of a business who just fills multiple roles. And I really want to specialize in just one area more and more and more, instead of just, doing this and doing all that I can, which, especially Sam and Ariel have really, really helped me in that department. So I have been able to hand tasks to them and then kind of focus on some other stuff more, like this podcast or some video stuff. But Monday is kind of my bookkeeping day. So I literally just kind of keep the books on the companies, and it takes a good while. So that's something I definitely want to hand off in the near future. So Monday's bookkeeping day. I'm at home. I usually do that. And then once I'm done with bookkeeping, I might kind of just do some like wholesale recon, like honestly just trying to find some accounts that I haven't heard of and maybe reaching out or just giving them a follow on Instagram, or kind of trying to find out more about the company. So I usually do that towards the tail end of Monday. And then I might just do emails, or maybe edit some pictures or edit a video or something like that if I'm done with bookkeeping early. And then once a month, I do like a monthly finance report where I just take care of a bunch of tasks throughout the whole month and kind of get a month's P&L and balance sheet and cash flow and all that in order. So that's Monday. And then Tuesday is podcast first thing in the morning. And then as soon as the podcast is over, and after we break down the podcast, I usually edit the podcast and then have a meeting with Ariel, Ariel is our designer. She also does order fulfillment. And I just kind of see what she's working on. She shows me some stuff. I can offer some revisions, and then she can kind of work on that throughout the rest of the week. So, and then Tuesday, it'll just be miscellaneous from there. I might go by the cafe and work there for a little bit, or do something at the cafe, or, take some pictures at HQ or the cafe or whatever. I think sometimes that area will be filled with going to Dunwoody and checking in on things here in a few weeks. But the hardest part about Tuesday is I have to be done editing the podcast before I leave, and I have to render the video out because I have to upload it at HQ. I can't upload the podcast whenever I get home that night because my internet at home is so terrible. Like, I live in Dawsonville. We have like Windstream, and it is really, really bad. So I have to use that sweet gig speed internet down in Roswell before I hit the road. But I've got Starlink on order, so I should have satellite internet that's way faster at some point in the near future, but it's just taking such a long time. And that will honestly really help my workflow, because Mondays and Fridays can be tough with how bad the internet is. So that's Tuesdays. Wednesdays are probably my most open day, and I really do a good bit of, if I have anything planned for video, if I have anything planned for, more in-depth photo shoots, Wednesday is usually my day for that. Then I can edit and do all that. And then other than that, I might, be able to do some upkeep at HQ, water the plants, sweep, do some random things like that. Or if we ordered, we get a new shelf, it would probably be Wednesday that I built it at HQ. Wednesday morning at 9 a.m., we do a cupping, like a staff HQ cupping of our roast, just to make sure that quality is up to par. And if it is, then great. If it's not, then we can get a plan for how Sam can adjust those curves and see what's up. And then I might build out some newsletters on Wednesday. So that's Wednesday. And then Thursday is The first half of the day on Thursday pretty much is taken up by an owners meeting between me, Ethan, and Ross, where we just discuss whatever needs to be discussed. Or it's just really great to have. I mean, every Tuesday morning we're together pretty much at the podcast, but to have dedicated space to sit down and talk about the company once a week is very needed. Every couple weeks I run payroll on Thursdays, and then Thursdays will also be for editing videos and photos that I took on Wednesdays. And then Friday, honestly, Friday lately has been the catch-all day for what I didn't finish from earlier in the week, like the editing videos and photos, or I will also work on the website on Fridays. Like we've been doing a couple of bigger behind-the-scenes projects. I'm not great at coding by any means, and that's why it takes me a long time. But like we just put up our catering page, and then we are going to be putting up a podcast page soon, and then eventually a blog. So those sorts of things, I work on those on Fridays. Our website is completely custom coded, and that is why those sorts of things take me a good bit of time. So that was kind of the bird's eye view. I will say all that. I am fortunate enough at this point to usually work a pretty 40 to 50 hour week. I would say 50 would be the absolute max. It's not always been that way. So, and then it's definitely seasonal. Like once we get closer to this Dunwoody opening, it'll probably be way up from there. But we've certainly had the seasons of pulling 70, 75 hour weeks working on this business, and it's nice to be in a season where that has been a step back. All of that is laid out. I really want my roles within the company to trend more and more towards the direction of just media related stuff. And one thing that wasn't on that list, that I do it on Wednesdays often after the cupping, is just helping with green sourcing. I used to be over all the green sourcing of coffee and purchasing myself. And now Sam does that to where I have to do minimal in that area. And that has been huge. I used to do more of the design stuff myself, or we'd have to outsource it to third parties. Having Ariel to do that has been huge. So I would say right now I'm pretty amped on video and reels and YouTube and photos. And that is really what I want to be doing within the company. And so I'm trying to figure out ways to create space, maybe get someone else to start doing our bookkeeping, or, obviously the website kind of ebbs and flows, but whenever that's less, maybe I can focus more on video and stuff like that. So that's my work schedule. I hope that interested some of you, because it sounds kind of boring, but that's what's up. And then as far as, what was the other half of that question? Organization. So organization, always trying to get better at this. I am a 1 on the Enneagram, so I do like this stuff. But again, it ebbs and flows in how much I use it. But I would say whenever I'm in my ideal state, my organization system really involves 3 apps. I would like to write more, like physically write, or even just write using my iPad or whatever, but I don't. And currently, we've got 3 apps. So the first one is a calendar app. So, Fantastical is what I use. It integrates with Google Calendar, and it's basically just like a wrapper on the face of it to make it look a little different, but it's really, really great, and it has good functionality. It costs some amount per year, but I think it's worth it, and it can pull in multiple calendars into one view, which is also cool. So I use that, and then I use Todoist as my to-do app, and it integrates with my calendar. So usually all of my tasks, I will put them in Todoist. So like, take this one, for example. I didn't really build it out this week because, like I said, I have a baby coming and I'm not going to be working at the end of the week. But it says Thursday, owners meeting, 8 o'clock, employee payroll, 1 o'clock or whenever that says. So that integrates with the calendar and fills in the time slots on the calendar. So at the top of the week, usually I go into Todoist, I look at my recurring schedules, which are in my third app that I'll tell you in a second. I look at my recurring tasks on a week-to-week basis. I fill everything in there. I fill it with, whatever other tasks I know are on my radar, meetings or whatever. I usually do that as soon as I receive whatever meeting it is. Put the time, and then I go into the calendar, and then I drag to where, however long that is going to take for me to do that certain tasks. And then I build out my calendar completely in time blocks according to a day. It's so overkill, but it's just kind of how I work. And usually I don't complete all of them, but it's a really good way to stay motivated to do so. So the third app that I use is a note-taking app. You can use whatever you want. This one is super overkill and it's so nerdy, but Notion, a friend of mine told me about it probably about a year ago, and I've really been building it out to be kind of exactly what I need it to be. And that's where I keep all of my recurring tasks. That's where I keep my more detailed and long-term to-dos, where I can draft them into shorter to-dos within Todoist. So, let me see if I can show. Within Valor, there's Valor. That was a stock photo latte art that Notion already had. And then I have all these categories of different parts of the company. So if I click on one of them, like marketing, underneath that, we have all of the different things that can fall in the marketing department: social media, newsletters, video, podcasts, so on and so forth. If I click on videos, it has a list of YouTube video ideas in one spreadsheet, and then a list of Reels ideas in another spreadsheet. And then you can click on those individual cells and build out notes within the cell itself. So I really believe that our brains aren't designed to retain a ton of information. So I try to offload as much, especially ideas, as much as I possibly can. So if I have a video idea, I try to, it's kind of a balance, because I don't want to be on my phone all the time, obviously. But if I have an idea, I try to pull out my phone and put the idea in my phone as soon as I can. Maybe you could keep a notepad if you don't want to have your phone on you all the time, and then jot it down and then put it in your to-do list or phone later. But as soon as I get the idea, I put it in Notion to where it's there. Otherwise, I will forget it. That happens far too often. But I know there's a lot of studies that say, peak performers and the Da Vinci's of the world, they kept something on them to where they could jot it down instantly, because your brain, it has to do a lot, and to expect it to remember tasks, especially, it's just hard to do. Even every Monday, I go through a task list of the bookkeeping tasks I have to do on a given Monday, and if I don't go through that list, then I will certainly forget those things. So I would recommend, jot down your ideas and then break them into smaller to-dos. So on my recurring weekly tasks, if on Wednesday it says record videos, whenever I'm planning out my week at the top of the week, I can look at my video list and say, oh, I had this video idea, I'll record that on Wednesday. So I'm a nerd for that stuff. So thank you for giving me an outlet to talk about it, Greg. Man, you guys getting tired of hearing me talk yet? Yeah, me too. All right. Rachel Walters says, tell us some horror/funny cart stories. Well, Rachel, I think you've heard a good bit of them, but let's see. What's a good one? So I wasn't at this event, but a really funny story that happened to Ethan and Michaela. Michaela was working an event, if that tells you where we were at this point. I don't know where I was. I think it was, maybe me and Michaela were just married. But we did this event, and we pull up to the wedding venue, and where they want us to unload is gravel. And, we're pretty explicit in our contract about, we have to unload on a flat paved surface. But, once you get there, you gotta do what you gotta do. So they unload the cart, pull it off the trailer. It hits the gravel, gets stuck in the gravel, and the wheel, like the caster, just completely comes off. And the cart just kind of like collapses, and Ethan's just like catching it. And so they had to figure out how to get it off of the trailer on 3 wheels over the gravel, and then they had to rest it on something. I can't remember what it was, but let's just call it like a cement block, like a cinder block. So that was pretty wild for them. There's a picture of it somewhere, and I wish I had it, but I know I don't. So that one was pretty wild. And then another one, we were brewing coffee at a wedding, and our drip brewer was like under the bar of the cart where you can't see it. And I'm standing there, and I think I was pulling shots. I was just like grinding, pulling shots. And then I look down, and I like feel something, and I look down, and my feet are just covered in like hot water. And something happened with the drip brewer to where the valve opened and would not close. And we just had to live with it and unhook the water, and it just kept flooding until the boiler was drained. And those are the kind of things you have to expect whenever you're catering, just the curveballs. And that was definitely one of them. I'm going to take a sip of water. All right. Circle Coffee Co. asks, salary or owner distributions or both? Do you factor owner salaries into your labor target? That is an interesting question. And I would say if you are listening to this and you are looking to build a company, talk with an accountant first. Circle Coffee Co. I know that you know this. I'm not just saying this to you, but I can give you an example of what we do, but it might not work the same in your state as like best practice or your company structure or something like that. So I think the best way to handle it is to do a little bit of both. So pay yourself a base salary up to a certain number that your accountant says you should. It's different for a lot of people. A lot of times I hear $30,000 a year. I've heard some people say $50,000 a year. A lot of different numbers have been thrown out there. But pay yourself up to that amount, and then include that within your labor percentage. Like always, because that is salary. And then anything you pay yourself above that, like I know with us, our distribution is just a set amount. Like we have a set salary that includes our salary, payroll, wages, and our distribution amount. So we aren't just like distributing based off of actual, this was the profit for the month, let's split it 3 ways. Like we don't do that. But to split it both ways, you can include the base one and the salary at all points. And then in your like official P&Ls, yes, like that's what you include. And then distributions come out of your profit based on the month. So like a P&L doesn't show a distribution. And so it'll say, you profited this month. In your head, you can be like, okay, I took blank amount from that profit. But with all that being said, yes to that. But then we also have viability spreadsheets, like our cafe viability spreadsheet, where I'm like, okay, if we open Dunwoody and we're splitting, maybe we start splitting Ethan's salary between these two, I do include his distribution in those types of numbers, because to not give like an accurate picture of what's going to happen. So I would say really take it case by case. Like obviously if you're just pulling a P&L from QuickBooks and you are logging your distribution the correct way, then it's not going to show it in that P&L. But in your head, know what that is and then run that with those labor percentages as well, especially if you're still really working in the company. If you're working completely out of the company, or like say there's a coffee company and the owner is just like a hands-off guy or gal, and he or she sees, what's what's going on in the company, is completely removed from their role, and they just take a distribution from the company. They take no salary. It's like literally all distribution because they don't actually do anything within the business. In that instance, I would say, yeah, they definitely should not include any of their numbers within the labor percentages, because it's literally just coming from the profits that the company is making for them, which is fine. Like, that'd be cool to just have a passive company like that. But since we're all in the company, we all really take all of the work we do into the equation in the labor percentages. All right. I'll take one more because I am honestly going hoarse, losing my voice. So Sam Harless, Valor's own, says, what makes Valor unique in the coffee world, or why Valor rather than blank? Well, Sam, that's a good question. And I think there doesn't have to be a Valor rather than blank. It can be Valor and blank. You know what I'm saying? So I don't really look at competition that much. And, for better or for worse, I'm sure if I, did weigh competition a little more, maybe we'd be in a different spot in our company. But I firmly believe that Valor just adds to the specialty coffee market. It doesn't try to like take a spotlight from anyone or anything like that. We're just literally trying to help grow this industry. And, it's when I see a coffee shop open down the street, I don't get sad or worried or whatever. I'm just like, okay, that's more coffee for everyone. Like, the world just, a lot of times the world needs more businesses. And that's kind of the beauty of having growing areas. I know there's obviously a lot of downside to it, but Alpharetta has grown a ton, and there is room for multiple coffee shops, and there's room for multiple coffee shops in Dunwoody. And I mean, you see it, you go to certain spots in Atlanta and you walk down the street like a quarter of a mile and you see 12 coffee shops, and that's cool. If the market is there for it, then great. So that's my answer, I guess, to the second part of the question. The first part of the question, I would say Valor, again, I think what we do really, really well is how we treat people. And I know that might not be like a coffee specific thing, but we were definitely soured by some customer service experiences before we start this company. And I can't really say anything other than that was a driving factor for opening Valor. And yeah, so customer service side, I mean, I would say obviously our coffees are excellent. Like, I can't really complain about our coffees. I've had some of the best coffees I ever have from my own company, and I'm not trying to like brag about that, but that's definitely something we bring to the table, especially if you're just like, let's just say you're looking at the coffee industry. Like, it's easy to say, okay, Valor sets itself apart by quality, because that's the truth. But, within the specialty coffee industry, I think you have a lot of people producing really good coffee. Like, if I was to look at our competition on a wholesale level, I mean, everyone just roasts good coffee. If you A/B it next to each other, like, if I taste a coffee from, if I was taking Atlanta roasters into account, like if I was to buy a coffee from Portrait, a coffee from Bellwood, a coffee from East Pole, and then put a coffee from Valor on the table, like all next to each other, and taste them, they would all taste so good. And that's awesome. It's funny because I just said all those companies, and all those companies are so great. But what is setting companies apart and what's helping companies succeed is how they treat people. And just to be clear, I mean, as far as I know, all of those businesses treat everyone really well. So, with all that being said, I I think Valor, sets itself apart by how we treat people. I think our coffees are great. I think we have an excellent staff. World class, if I would, and I just feel really blessed by that. So, man, that was a whole. I don't know how much we're gonna clip out of that one, but an hour of me talking. So, I hope this was bearable. And if you're still with me, then I love you. If you're not with me, I love you too. But I don't think I have too much more. Probably no podcast next week. We'll take a week off and then we'll come back the week after that, likely with the three of us all together once again. And then as far as programming goes, we have some special guests line up. I know we have one at the top of September. It's going to be awesome. Maybe another towards the end of August. And we're excited about that. If you have any specific guests you want to see on the show, I mean, don't just say Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, because I don't think we can make that happen. But if you have any people within the coffee industry or adjacent industries who you would like to see come on, then let us know and we will try to make it happen, because we love doing guest interviews and whatnot. We would eventually love to do this was Elijah's idea, a Valor Roadshow podcast. That'd be fun. Take it on the road and kind of hit a few coffee shops or companies along the way and kind of get some content, some interviews going with cafe and roastery owners and see what's up with that. But in the meantime, we really appreciate you listening. You know what to do. Smash like, subscribe, review, follow, all that stuff. But you're already doing that if you're still listening to me talk after an hour or so. Thanks for listening, y'all. Love you.